In today's video, I'm going to show you the only 8 watercolor skies you'll ever need. So today I'm going to show you 8 different types of watercolor sky. Think of them as sort of a pick and mix, so you can mix and match, you can layer them up, combine the techniques. They're going to give you pretty much every sky you'll ever need. Our first type of sky is a single color sky, so for this we're going to need a flat wash. I'm using small samples of paper today just because they fit on camera better, but the trick to painting skies is to use a large brush and work quickly, and if necessary dry between layers. We'll look at that more later in the video, so don't forget to watch until the end because we've got sunsets and all sorts of things, but we're going to start simply. So I'm going to use this large brush, but if I was working on a really big painting, I'd probably use, brushes even as big as this one here. Flat brushes are also great for painting a flat wash like this. I'm going to use a round brush today, but if I was working larger, I'd certainly use a flat brush like this, or even a much wider brush. With a flat wash, it's important that you mix up enough paint, and I've actually swatched this first. So I started here, added a little more water, allowed it to dry until I got the right colour. Because a sky like this is usually found on a cloudy day or sometimes even in mist or fog, because skies aren't always the same colour all the way down. In fact, they usually get a little lighter towards the horizon. We'll be looking at that in a moment. But when you just want a flat wash, we're going to start at the top and we're just going to bring the leading edge of the paint down. And the most important thing here is to apply it quickly and evenly, spreading down, not leaving any puddles, because puddles will lead to strange drying lines forming. I'm also not going to take this brush back up to the top at any point, even if there seems to be, a slight impurity, a cat hair, a little speckle. It's never worth going back up because this area at the top here is already dry. So if I take a wet brush up here, I'll ruin everything. I also have the option, if I have too much water on my brush at any time or on the paper, I could just pick up and apply like this. Now, if this doesn't dry evenly, there's nothing wrong with applying a second layer or even going over the top with a second layer of clean water, but I would let this dry first. So this is our first sky, a simple one colour sky. So as I discussed, most skies aren't just one colour, so let's move things along, get things looking a little bit more three-dimensional. Our next sky involves a graduated wash. So let's do a graduated wash now, because for most skies, they get lighter towards the horizon, and that's because of something called aerial perspective that makes things in the distance look paler and softer and bluer. So we're going to start dark up the top and lighten as we come down to where the ground is. There is more than one way of doing this. You'll notice that for most of these samples, I'm not pre-wetting my paper. You should only do that if you have a strong reason to do it. Otherwise, you're just diluting your paint and it won't always guarantee an even application. We're going to need clean water while we paint this. So not only have I got the water I'm using here, I've got a second jar here which is completely clean water. I've taken my original colour and mixed more phthalo blue in. So we're going to start at the top here, and we're going to start with full strength colour at the top, adding more water as we come down. So you have to play this by eye to some extent. It will depend, how thick your paint is, what pigments you're using. Some are much stronger than others. So I'm just going to dip straight into my water jar, the one that's still got some paint in. And again, we need to make sure that we're keeping those water levels even. I've actually got new practice paper here. The one I was using is discontinued, and this one is not easy to work on actually. So I'm coming down now, adding more water in. You see the water's got a little bit of blue in, so we're spreading that colour down. Now, because it's a strong pigment, it will just continue to spread all the way down unless I completely rinse my brush. I'm now going to get water from the clean jar and come up to meet the other colour. It's also quite warm today, so my paint is drying quickly. So making sure that the water levels are even, we don't have puddles. Here we have our second type of sky, a graduated wash. For our next sky, we're going to add a little bit of colour in a soft blush at the horizon. So we're going to do something similar, but this time we're going to add a touch of warmth at the horizon. Maybe your sky is just looking a little cold or a little dull, or you want that sort of hint of sunset without painting a full sunset, or perhaps even hint of sunrise. So again, I'm going to go slightly lighter as I come down, keeping those water levels even. And then I'm just going to add a touch of pink as I come down here. You can use any colour here. I've got a little bit of alizarin crimson. You could use something brighter. Remember to stay away from yellow because the one colour you don't want in sky is green. And yes, I know there are exceptions to that rule. We've got things like aurora borealis, but generally speaking, you want to keep green out of your skies. This is our third type of sky, a sky with a little warmth at the horizon. Next, let's add some soft, distant trees at our horizon. So this time we're going to come down, and as we get towards the base here, we're going to put some foliage or trees on in the form of some green paint, or we can go straight in with yellow because it'll mix with the blue. We could add more blue. Let me show you how it's done. Now the trick to this one is to make sure that the paint that you're putting on for the trees is not too drippy and wet. The wetter it is, the more it will bleed up into the sky. So if you want it to stay pretty much, then what you're going to need to do is use thicker paint. Doesn't matter if you're using pan paints or tube paints. And don't forget, if you need any help with your painting, do feel free to pop over and join my Facebook group. It's completely free. I also have a separate group which is for people that are taking my online courses, but you don't have to take a course to join that one either. I'll leave details in the video description. So now we've got down the bottom here. Let's go straight in. Let's try some of this yellow ochre and pop it down here. Now, the more it feathers and bleeds up into the sky, the wetter the paint is, so you can control how much you want that to happen. Let's try some Daniel Smith green gold. So if you want that bleeding upwards, you're going to use quite wet paint. If you want some uneven drying, I can even use colours like pink and purple if I've got some autumn tones going on, and work in like this. Again, be careful not to go up to the top of the paper. You can keep this soft and light or dark and moody. And of course, once it's dry, you'll be able to go on top and add more detail and sharper, crisper shapes if you want to. Look at how this one here has spread all the way up here. That's because that paint was quite wet. If I go in with paint that's much stickier, it will stay pretty much where I place it, but with a soft edge. So 4 down, 4 to go. We're going to really ramp things up with some more exciting techniques now. But before that, can I just ask you quickly if you could click that like button, that thumbs up for me? It really does help the channel. And don't forget to free subscribe. We are fully cat approved. Just like the UK, the weather's probably soon going to turn. So let's add some fluffy white clouds. So this is the first of our skies that we're going to do in 2 layers. So what I'm doing here is applying clean water quickly and evenly to the area in which I'm working. Again, don't leave any puddles, sweeping out any excess water. Next, I'm going straight in with some blue paint. And again, the wetter it is, the more bleeding you'll get, which can look nice. You can end up with this sort of idea of rain clouds if you get some of that feathering. Got a little splatter there. Let's just lift that out of the way. And what I'm doing here is I'm leaving shapes for clouds, but again, I'm going to get lighter with my color as it comes down to the horizon to get that idea of aerial perspective. I tend to, as I get down to the bottom here, just drag this paint across. I'm going to put a little bit more color up top, going in with stronger paint, and you need to work quickly with this one and then leave it alone. Now the white gaps will become our clouds, but clouds have shadows. Now this is starting to dry. It would be quite disastrous if I continued working on it. So I'm going to allow it to dry, and then I'll bring you back and put on the second layer, which will just be some little bits of shadow in the clouds to add dimension. Now our paper's dry. You see how it's bowed a little bit. If you stretch your paper, that won't happen. It'll be completely flat at this point, but I'm only working with little samples. What I'm going to do now is apply clean water inside of these cloud areas. Be careful not to over wet. Even water by itself can leave drying lines if you go over the top of the blue. I've got a little bit of sort of a purplish grey. You can mix a cloud shadow colour from Payne's Grey and a little pink if you want to. It's looking like a face, isn't it? That wasn't what I intended. So we can add our shadow like this. You want to aim to get your clouds a little flatter towards their base, working in individual areas. As I said, keep the water almost fairly dry, as it were, just adding tiny bits of cloud. And we can use this shadow if we have got any areas that, are too large or too wide. You can always use this shadow to break up areas like so. And this will add 3 dimensions to your sky. Now, not all clouds are soft and fluffy, so we're going to add some crisp clouds next. So for this one, we're going to take a different approach, and I don't normally advise drawing cloud shapes in skies, but we're going to for this one because we're going to get clouds that are crisp edged but still look realistic and have soft areas. So let's draw a couple of cloud shapes on there. And this time I'm taking the clean water onto the clouds themselves, like this. I think there was a tiny bit of paint left in there, but it won't matter at all. So taking my clean water just inside that pencil line. What I'm going to do now is paint around the outside of the cloud shapes, and because you can't see the water, what will happen is just occasionally my brush will contact that water. So we'll end up with some nice crisp edged clouds. And again, I'm still coming down from top to bottom quite evenly like this. But you'll see that just in a couple of places, the sky has touched the water in the clouds. And so we get a little softness. Just like the previous sample, I'm going to add some cloud shadow. So just the same as our previous sample, now it's dry, we'll add clean water, popping some cloud shadow in. If it's a very rainy day, if you keep this cloud shadow wet, you see how it starts to bleed upwards in little lines like that. It'll give the impression of a bit of a rain-filled cloud. Again, use your shadow to break up any clouds that are too solid, always placing it mostly towards the base. Well, it's not always daytime, so what about a colourful sunset? So there's a couple of tricks to painting sunsets. One of them is don't try and paint it all in one go. In other words, don't try and get all of the colours on the paper at one time. It'll start to dry and you'll just end up with horrible mess and drying lines. The other is to avoid greens, as previously mentioned. Now, any colour with yellow in that overlaps with any colour that's got blue in can produce green, which is why you can combine orange, which has yellow in, and grey, which has blue in, and end up accidentally getting green. So what we're going to do is to put our bright colours in first. So whatever colours you see in your sunset, yellows, pinks and oranges, you're going to drop these in first. Now, if you ever get green accidentally in a picture, then what you can do is you can add some pink and that will neutralize that color. So I'm taking my colors down here. There's often a little bit of light in the center, and we'll talk about how to do a visible sun or moon in a moment. What I'm going to do first of all is just get my initial colors in, because we're going to work in layers. Don't work for too long, otherwise you'll get hard edges. Now I'm going to allow it to dry. Once it's dry, we're going to re-wet with clean water. Notice I'm starting on the lightest area here. Taking clean water across shouldn't change what's underneath too much, but it can just spread colours around. So be mindful of that and rinse and dry your brush in any areas where you don't want the colours to spread too much. But it can also, if you've got 1 or 2 areas, it can soften things. So now I've re-wet. And the reason I don't stop my water halfway down here, even if it's an area I'm not going to paint again, is because water itself on dry paint can leave a drying line. So you're generally safest to re-wet a whole area if you can. Now I'm going to add my darks in. People sometimes ask how you get a sunset to glow. It's all about contrast. Lights will glow when you have strong darks next to them. So if your sunsets aren't glowing, it's likely because the colours are too light and you don't have enough contrast. And we can also take darker areas in down here. By going a little purple here, I'm going to avoid any greens appearing, but there are all sorts of colours you can use. And again, only play around with it whilst it's still damp. so that you don't end up with a load of drying lines. Since the sun's going down, let's add a moon. People often use masking fluid to create a little circular sun or moon, but I'm going to show you a method that works much better, which was taught to me by one of my students. What we're going to do is take a coin and some paper towel. You want to make sure it's folded a few times, and then we're going to just take this in, sort of hold it or twist it at the back until we've got a shape like this. Now we'll apply our paint, and as I said, this can be used to make a sun, but it can also be used to make a moon, or those weird occasions where, you know, it's daylight but you can also see the moon still in the sky. Using any colours we want, let's go crazy and have a little bit of fun with it. Now we need to do this whilst the paint is wet. I'm just going to spread this up here a bit. Whilst our paint is wet, you're going to press in like this. You can twist a little bit and lift out. Now, sometimes if it seems appropriate, what I'll also do is drag a few lines across like this with thicker paint. Again, don't work on it too long. So do let me know in the comments if this video is going to help you with painting some of the skies that you might have come across in your watercolor journey. And before you leave this video, don't forget to have a look in the video description. There's lots of good stuff down there. If I've linked to any other videos I've spoken about in this video, you'll find them down there, as well as lots of free stuff, including free downloadable PDFs. There's even a free watercolor painting course that you can take for no money whatsoever. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like some more landscape painting tips, I'll put another video up for you to watch right now.